Me and my co-author, we found out that we were both Star Wars fans. We picked up on little clues, like us making references from the movies, dialogue, things like that. And then one day after one of these meetings, we were just kind of talking at a reception, and she commented that she thought C-3PO had obsessive compulsive personality disorder, and said, you know, I'd like to write something on that, but I'm having trouble thinking of possible other things. And I thought about it for 5 minutes and came up with 12 other diagnoses on the other major characters, and that kind of started us off. We both do forensics, so we were a little worried about if we wrote these papers, how would it be perceived. But when I was testifying in a federal court case, when I was going to leave, I noticed that the judge had a little Yoda figure kind of hidden on his bench. So I figured if a federal judge has a Yoda figure, I should be able to write a paper about it. We were trying to look at how to use pop culture as a teaching tool, as an augmenter, and we want to make it clear that we don't mean to minimize psychiatric illness. We don't want to make fun of people who have psychiatric illness, but this was a way to try to engage maybe pre-med students, medical students who are not necessarily thinking psychiatry, or residents. So, you know, movie nights, clips during lectures about what illnesses are, and that since Star Wars is so beloved and everybody knows it, it could be kind of a shorthand where, you know, somebody may not remember the 12 features in a DSM category, but they may remember, you know, Grand Moff Tarkin narcissistic personality. There's actually been a few other people that have written about it. So there was a French group that thought Darth Vader may have had borderline personality disorder, and then there was a Brazilian group that wrote back and said why he didn't. And, you know, so we kind of took some of the earlier kind of, and again, it's fun, it's a little tongue-in-cheek, but it's a serious way to try and communicate some of the information, and we built on it some. The first time I used a Star Wars clip in teaching is I give lectures. I'm from Florida, and we're required to have 2 hours of CME credit on domestic violence each year. And if you do that lecture, or if you are listening to that lecture every 2 years, it kind of becomes rote, and I put in a Star Wars clip as a way to break it up, kind of get around people's usual fatigue on the topic, and just highlighted that, you know, that scene shows a lot of the personality traits you see in abusers as well as in the victims. You know, the fact that the Padme character was pregnant at the time, incidents of domestic violence go up during pregnancy. There was a possessive, controlling nature. There was blaming others. There was that the abuser was never at fault, that it was the victim's problem. So again, it is a little more lighthearted, it's a little fluffy, but it was a way to try again convey important information that people need to know that they may get tired or have been droned on so much. You have to be careful of fanboys and fangirls and them missing the forest through the trees. And if you are using, you know, these clips in teaching or residencies, you do have to be able to draw a line of, okay, now we're getting into rampant speculation and fandom versus hard fact. So I've talked with some people and they wanted to go off in nauseam on whether or not Jar Jar Binks is Sith, and I said no. We're using Jar Jar as an example of attention deficit disorder. I'm not going to discuss whether or not he's a Sith Lord, but his behavior, how he responds, his concentration, his getting into trouble, and the fact that you have other Gungans in the movie to compare him to, you know his behavior is out of the realm of normal. And that's kind of the teaching point that we try and make. And people have been doing this for centuries. I mean, even Freud referred to Hamlet in some of his things, and the Oedipal complex comes from Greek tragedy. So the notion of using pop culture of its day to teach concepts or personalities and how things interrelate. And Star Wars was greatly influenced by Joseph Campbell, who was influenced by Carl Jung. So I mean, there is some underpinning of psychiatric thought and heritage to the topic. We had good response when we gave the lecture. We've published 3 papers on it, and again, it's meant as an augment. It's not the begin-all, end-all way, but it's a way to engage people, and I think for folks who are looking for a different way or a way to make some of the material manageable, it's a way to approach it. And you can see if it's helpful or not. You can go on Reddit or some of the other internet sites, and there's even sites up that say Star Wars have saved my life. So you can see people who talk about how this universe, the lessons, the morals from it. And just as we use parable or allegory in a lot of our psychotherapy, you know, Star Wars may be a way to do it. Abstract enough that people don't get their defenses up, but close enough that they can at least take home the appreciable point. This has always been kind of a side project for us. We're forensics, so we see a lot of, you know, death, destruction, and inappropriate things. So this was kind of a lighthearted topic. The last thing I'd written about was a textbook on torture. So we were looking for something, and we'll see what happens with the new movies. And my co-presenter, Dr. Hatters-Friedman, had written a little bit about, horror films and psychiatric themes in there, and, why do certain creatures of the night become more popular during political and disasters and things of that nature. Why is zombies so popular right now given global politics and terrorism in the world? So, I think there are themes here that'll come back. Now, whether or not it'll be Star Wars or whether it be the next big pop culture, and we'll have to see what they do with the new movies, but it's a way to just present the information, hopefully help people learn. And when I was going through my training, people showed clips from Gone with the Wind with Scarlett O'Hara to try and identify histrionic personality. Today's generation may not have seen Gone with the Wind, but they may be able to recognize it in Princess Leia when she's kissing Luke, who's her brother.